Good day, good night, and welcome to Off the Woodworkx post-game show. I'm Kevin Laramie, and thanks for joining us after this amazing home and away series victory by the Montreal Impact. They didn't need to score a goal tonight because they didn't concede any, and the 2 goals scored last week were enough to hold on to the lead and move on to the quarterfinals in the CONCACAF Champions League. The Montreal Impact famously wins in the CONCACAF Champions League by a away goal. We know that by now. It is a historical fact. And once again, it happened on Wednesday night at this beautiful Stade Olympique. I love this place. There's nothing quite like this place. I know you might think it's old and it's not all brand spanking new. I don't care. Oh, it's not till it's just so beautiful. I wish I could live here, and I wish we could all live here. It's so big. But tonight, the Montreal Impact punched their ticket for the quarterfinals of the CONCACAF Champions League. Of course, on this post-game show, we're going to hear Thierry Henry give his post-game comments after this draw. We're also going to hear Samuel Piette's comments after the game, and also Binks, who made his debut for the Montreal Impact tonight. What a game for the young England defender. Have to say, color me impressed. This player is going to be the best defender of the Montreal Impact in 2020. You might say, Kevin, you're saying this after 90 minutes? The guy's worth it. He's going to impress you all season long. And we saw the guy today, literally right over there, control the defense, able to compensate for some of the plays that were not as easy for Raitala. He did not have his best game before coming out of the game for Joel Waterman at halftime. It's unfortunate the Impact did suffer another injury to their defenders tonight. It's Jukka Raitala. We'll see if he's going to play Saturday, but the game's so close that I would not count Jukka Raitala as available for Saturday, but things can change. Orgio Okonkwo was actually not even on the bench today. Injury update yesterday was still listed as day-to-day. Same for Lassi Lapalainen, but both players were not included in the 18, and Safar Taider was on the bench to start the game. We did have Binks in place of Rudy Camacho in the starting 11, as predicted on Off the Woodworkx pregame show last night. And the game pretty much went the way I thought it was going to be. And Montreal had a chance to score early on. It didn't happen. They had a couple of chances to score later on also. It didn't happen. Saprissa almost scored a couple of goals, and they could have scored at the 86th minute when Clément Diop did the save of the game. What a save that was. Point blank save by the Montreal Impact goalkeeper to keep Montreal in the lead on aggregate with away goals. And just a few minutes after that, the 3 whistle of the referee made it official, and the Impact are moving on to the quarterfinals. But now looking at the performance as a whole of the Impact, yes, they did not suffer as much as we anticipated. The defense, and I think also effort management, was done properly this time around. Of course, there were no 2 substitutions in the first 30 minutes, and you had more energy at the end of the game, and that was blatant. You can see players of the Montreal Impact give everything they had, and they had more left in the tank than last week. That's for sure in the last 20 minutes of this game. And yes, Saprissa crossed early. Saprissa was putting balls in the air in the box to take advantage of what they saw was maybe a weakness last week. But credit to Thierry Henry for assessing that situation and correcting that vulnerability by the Montreal Impact by making Binks part of his starting 11 tonight. I mentioned on yesterday's show, you need to keep it simple. You need to make sure that you have a defense line that understands its role, that is simple. And of course, in a situation like this, against a CCL team, against a Costa Rican team that is mid-season already and has some energy in the tank, you needed to find ways to save that energy. And Binks in the air, clearing a lot of balls, helping each other, making sure there's no panic moment. And I think that's one of the things that's really obvious tonight versus last week. Last week on the goals, but a couple other instances in the game, you actually saw some panic from a few players of the Montreal Impact that led to goals. Waterman on an occasion and a couple of other occasions last week, right? But this time around, Montreal were a little bit more, I wouldn't say patient, but they were able to absorb and they were able to deal with the pressure that Saprissa was putting on Montreal. Now let's just talk about Saprissa for a second. Saprissa was trying, was pushing hard, was putting pressure, but Walter Centeno was not happy all game long. If you can rewatch the entire game and only pay attention to Surprise's manager, if I were you, I would do it because it's fascinating. First of all, he reacts to everything. Movement, turning around, yelling at players, throwing his gum at a player at one point. And it was the 30th minute? I just see him, he's right over here. He's looking at his team and he's yelling at a defender, berating the defender, throwing things on the bench and looking at the defender, be like, yeah, I'm putting a guy to get warmed up. I'm going to substitute you if you don't change. I'm paraphrasing here, but that's the narrative I put in my mind when I was looking at him react the way he was. It is very entertaining to watch Walter Centeno, and it is also entertaining to watch Thierry Henry. Thierry Henry is very transparent on the back line. When he's not happy with his players, when there's I would say technical garbage happening on the pitch, when you see a bad pass, when you see a loss of possession for no real reason, his reactions are priceless to me. And the way he turns around, he's mad, and he sits down, gets up. He really does take it passionately. It might not come out when he's talking to the media or talking to other players, but looking at Thierry Henry manage from the sideline is very entertaining also for different reasons than Walter Centeno. Walter Centeno is entertaining like a car crash. It's entertaining like a train wreck. And watching Thierry Henry is more entertaining as an educator that sometimes loses patience but reminds himself that he needs to work on things. And that's the educator side of Thierry Henry that we see when he manages the Montreal Impact. And it is quite interesting to see on a game like today where we have a different vantage point than we have at Stade Saputo. We're a little closer at Stade Saputo, so we'll have a better view of Thierry Henry's managerial style in the next few months. But now, of course, after this victory, Montreal has only 2 days to recover, to make sure that they have all the fluids, to make sure that they took the lactic acid out of the muscle, because, well, Saturday at 3 p.m. the regular season starts versus New England Revolution in town. Bruce Arena and company will be here to try to spoil the Major League Soccer debut of Thierry Henry as manager of the Montreal Impact. Now, historically speaking, this could be the beginning of a great journey for the Montreal Impact. We all remember 2015, how Montreal won against Pachuca, and it led to a great journey to the semifinal versus Alajuelense, Liga Deportivo Alajuelense, and also Club America on the final. This time around, it's still a bit different, so do not expect a big journey right now. There's not necessarily the expectation of success for the Montreal Impact. The ambition of success, I would say, is there, but you can only control so much. Outside of the Montreal Impact, it's not necessarily all up to them. They will face either Seattle Sounders or Stade Olympique from Honduras. Stade Olympique played against the Impact in 2008 in the group stage of the CONCACAF Champions League in 2008. It had a different format. The format has been changed now. It's the second iteration of this CONCACAF Champions League with this format. Before that, if you're new to the CCL, from 2008, 7, 8, 8 was the first big edition with the new format, 2008, the qualifying before that, and the group stage in fall 2008, where we saw the Impact play teams like Real Esteli, like Joe Public, and like Stade Olympique in the group stage of that competition, which led to the actual journey later on in their history to go to Santos Laguna, hear the famous game, and then go back to Torreon, and they'll watch the last 15 minutes of that game. If you do, you're going to have nightmares, and that's what the CCL is all about. But that's what it's all about also. So this time around, if you imagine, there's 4 rounds. So there's one more round in the knockout stage. There's no more group stage in the CONCACAF Champions League, period. There's a new league that's called the CONCACAF League, which is basically another type of bracket tournament with different teams that ends in the fall. That was won by Saprissa last year. That's how they qualified for the CONCACAF Champions League proper with their performance in the CONCACAF League last year. If you're wondering, yeah, there are more Canadian teams in the CONCACAF League. There's Forge of the Canadian Premier League, which will be in the CONCACAF League once again in the fall as champion of the Canadian Premier League finals last year. So there's a chance another Canadian team could make it into the CONCACAF Champions League proper by doing well in the CONCACAF League. Just by happenstance, last fall, Forge was basically 2 victories or 2 good results away from being in the proper CCL. So it is possible for more than one Canadian team to make it to the CONCACAF Champions League. But this format for the Impact, the road to the CONCACAF Champions League final, if you want to say, for the Impact would be, of course, Saprisa's done. Now it's the winner of Olympia and Seattle in the quarterfinals. And then you have the semifinals, which, because of the side of the bracket that Montreal is on, Tigres Cruz Azul on the other side. Lyon is on the other side. So there's trouble still that could be on this side, but a lot less. The biggest task would be Seattle or Olympia next round. And then you could find yourself facing a Mexican team only in the semifinal. So you have a clearer path to the semifinal. No Mexican team in the next round for sure. So we'll see what happens. Is it going to be City Olympia? Is it going to be the Seattle Sounders? We'll know that on Thursday evening. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at Kev Laramie and at Off the Woodworks for this show to make sure you get all the details when the game is over tomorrow. I'll go live with a breaking news audio to talk to you about who's going to be the opponent of the Montreal Impact in the quarterfinal of the CONCACAF Champions League. Now, to finish this post-game show, we're going to look at Thierry Henry's press conference. So Thierry Henry is coming right up, followed by Samuel Piette and Binks, and we'll be right back after the 3 post-game comments.
Bonsoir. Bonsoir. Thierry, il y avait un gros enjeu ce soir. Il fallait avoir un bon résultat. À quel point est-ce que vous êtes fier de la manière dont ça s'est passé, malgré toute la pression qu'il y a eu autant lors du premier match que ce soir?
Ça n'a pas été un match évident, comme vous avez pu le voir. Maintenant, on aurait pu changer le cours du match, d'entrée de match avec Bojan, où elle n'a pas bien fini son occasion, ça peut arriver. Ils en ont une juste après aussi sur une touche de notre part. On a la balle, on en redonne et ils partent sur le côté et Clément fait un super arrêt. Et puis après, juste avant la mi-temps, on a cette balle de Chamit qui peut marquer sur une super action de Zach qui la donne, centre en retrait. Malheureusement, il ne termine pas et on savait qu'on allait souffrir en deuxième mi-temps. Mais quand vous regardez bien, on a souffert, à part la frappe à la fin que Clément sort, qui est un peu sur sa trajectoire. On a souffert, mais c'est des ballons souvent qui mettaient dans la surface très tôt et des diagonales très tôt qu'on a pu gérer. Maintenant, encore une fois, je reviens à ce que je disais, c'est une super équipe, ils savent manœuvrer la balle. Mariano Torres au milieu joue super bien, Angulo, Venegas venait, ça décrochait, ça partait, ça changeait de joueurs, les arrières rentraient à l'intérieur, les ailiers allaient haut. Il y a pas mal de choses à gérer, mais encore une fois, les mecs se sont battus. Quand vous regardez, on a les occasions, peut-être un peu moins la balle qu'eux, ils ont le même nombre à peu près d'occasions que nous. Mais on a réussi à mettre 2 buts là-bas, ils en ont mis 2 aussi, mais voilà, on passe. Encore une fois, vraiment une équipe difficile à manœuvrer.
Thierry, en arrivant à la maison, après la façon dont ton équipe avait joué, montré quelques trucs offensifs à Sapriza, de devoir jouer un match essentiellement défensif. Est-ce que c'est ce à quoi tu t'attendais ce soir?
Tout à fait, parce que l'équipe te donne, c'était pas un match défensif. Ils avaient souvent la balle. Si vous regardez bien les matchs, ils se la passaient souvent au milieu de terrain. Ou les mecs derrière. Après, ça, c'est pas un problème. À la fin, ils ont commencé à centrer très tôt. On a su gérer. Donc voilà, ça a été beaucoup plus difficile au match aller. Mais bon, on savait que ça allait être difficile pour nous, comme je vous l'ai dit avant le match. Mais bon, on a réussi à faire ce qu'il y avait à faire là-bas. On s'est encore créé un face-à-face avec Bojan. Une action dans les 6 mètres, plat du pied, à bout portant. Donc on a trouvé aussi, nous, nos moments. Et on n'a pas su mettre la balle au fond, comme eux.
Thierry, qu'est-ce que les 2 matchs que vous dirigez, qu'est-ce que ce match, les 2 matchs que vous venez de jouer, vous disent sur votre équipe déjà à ce point-ci?
On va revenir au même truc, qu'on se bat. On a réussi à jouer contre une équipe, encore une fois, qui nous a fait aller jusqu'au bout du match, au niveau physique. Quand vous regardez Chamit à la fin qui s'étire parce qu'il a des crampes, Romé n'était pas loin des crampes. Ça s'est passé au match là-bas. Encore une fois, je vais revenir sur le fait qu'on a parlé depuis le début de ça. Mais on n'a que 2 matchs dans les jambes. Donc terminer un match comme ça et de voir mon équipe se battre comme ça jusqu'à la fin, à l'aller et au retour, j'ai rien à leur dire sur ce plan-là, même s'il y a des choses qu'il va falloir bien sûr corriger. Mais au niveau de la combativité et de l'envie, il n'y avait rien à dire.
Thierry, quels étaient les ajustements principaux que vous vouliez mettre en place entre le match aller et ce match retour?
Bon, on a regardé, ça dépendait de comment ils allaient jouer. Ils ont commencé comme ils ont joué la dernière fois, ils ont changé avec Mariano qui venait chercher la balle entre les trois pour faire une défense à 4. Après, ils ont commencé à changer les arts qui rentraient à l'intérieur, les ailiers qui allaient un peu plus haut. Il y a pas mal de trucs qui ont changé dans le match. On est passé un moment en 5-3-2, je ne sais pas si vous l'avez vu, on est repassé après en 5-4-1. Donc voilà, il faut s'adapter aussi à ce que l'équipe fait en face. Tu n'es pas tout seul sur le terrain. Une équipe qu'il faut respecter, comme je disais avant le match, depuis le match aller. Mais on a réussi à passer.
Coach, qu'est-ce que ça fait pour l'esprit de corps de cette équipe qui est encore en quelque sorte en construction, en début de projet aussi, de gagner une bataille aussi importante dans l'adversité en ayant perdu quelques soldats, ainsi de suite, pour la suite des jeux?
Oui, encore une fois, on a perdu notre défenseur central sur un coup. Je n'ai pas exactement discuté avec le doc pour savoir ce qu'il a, Djuka, mais c'est vrai, on se retrouve encore dans une situation où on perd un changement à la fin du match. Mais bon, les mecs se sont ajustés, se sont battus et on sait de faire corps. Oui, après, c'est toujours mieux de commencer la saison en passant un tour en CONCACAF, Champions League. Mais après, il nous reste le match contre... il y a le premier match qui arrive là contre New England à la maison, où ça va être un match différent. Il va falloir récupérer, voir qui est là, qui est apte, qui va pouvoir débuter. Et c'est pas toujours évident. Quand vous regardez en général les équipes qui commencent avec la Champions League en CONCACAF en MLS souffrent en début de championnat. Donc j'espère que ça ne va pas nous arriver à nous.
Tout le monde a contribué. Thierry, ce soir, mais parlez-nous un petit peu de la performance de Clément Diop. Il donne confiance à ses coéquipiers.
Oui, mais comme toute l'équipe, je veux dire, à un moment donné, il a été beaucoup plus sollicité au match aller. C'est vrai qu'il fait un arrêt au début du match où il est vaillant pour aller dans les pieds de l'attaquant et après l'autre il la sort bien aussi. Mais bon, Clément il fait ce qu'il a à faire. Pour l'instant, c'est lui qui joue. On verra ce qui va se passer contre nous.
Thierry, it was the first game for Louis Binks. How did you like his game, his debut for this one?
Well, I think like everybody, he played well against a tough team. Like I said, and I'm repeating myself, but it's important to say. Then a couple of times he made some fouls that he didn't have to make, but you know he'll learn, and but he was pretty solid in there, clearing balls, keeping his composure, trying to play out from the back at times, which was a bit difficult. I'll be honest with you, but I thought he was solid.
Coach, did you feel Saprissa was going to be more dangerous than they were? I feel like they were passing the ball a lot amongst themselves in the midfield and the back.
Yeah, because it was a tactic on the other side to make sure that they couldn't enter our midfield. So you have to respect that too. You know, they finished better the game than us when we played at their place. We didn't readjust that well, but today we did. And that's why, you know, all they could do is pass the ball on the side and cross early. And we had to deal with that, and we did.
Terry, normally at this stage of the season, you want to make improvements, you want to have almost style points, moving towards where you want to get to. Obviously today you couldn't afford that. The result was so much more important. Is it difficult to before you've even played one MLS game, to have a situation here where you can't even afford to progress, you have to have the result?
Usually that's the story of football. You need to have results all the time. It doesn't matter where you are. I don't understand what you're saying when you play against a team that 11 games in their legs and you only have one. But it is what it is. You have to fight with your weapons at the time that you facing the team that you're facing. This is a team that forces you to play in a certain way, and you have to respect that. You know, I watched a game before. I watched Napoli against Barcelona. You want to attack Barcelona, but it's difficult. So you have to play a certain way. That's the way it is, and you have to respect that. And with the minutes that we had in our legs, again, no excuses. It is a fact. But yeah, you know, style will come, later. You know, obviously you want to do more when we're going to be on the ball. But it was difficult to have the ball against a team like that. You have to respect that.
Thierry, ¿qué tal? Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
De Teletica Radio. ¿Qué valoración hace del partido y también del rival, del Saprissa? ¿Le sorprendió algo o fue el mismo Saprissa que se encontró la semana anterior?
No, mira, es que yo tengo una admiración por el Saprissa y el míster, porque siempre quiere atacar, siempre quiere tocar y jugar con paciencia. y cambió un montón de cosas en el partido. No es tan fácil de verlo y de arreglarlo, pero lo hemos intentado y hoy creo que teníamos un pelín más de minutos en las piernas, entonces podíamos aguantar un pelín más, pero al final lo mismo, te voy a decir lo mismo, tengo un respeto increíble para el Saprissa y el Mister, pero sin ganar pasamos.
Thierry, buenas noches. Anthony Porras en vivo para Radio Colombia en Costa Rica. Era su primera vez también en nuestro país, la primera vez pues, que enfrenta a un equipo de Costa Rica. La impresión del fútbol nuestro, ¿qué le deja estos dos partidos? Vio futbolistas ticos, futbolistas de Costa Rica, ¿qué le parece nuestro fútbol?
Mira, sí, es primera vez que yo estaba entrenando contra un equipo de Costa Rica, pero yo jugué 2 veces contra Costa Rica y me hicieron correr. Y esta vez yo estaba en el banquillo, yo no podía correr mejor así, pero el equipo estaba corriendo un montón. Y siempre cuando se juega contra un equipo de Costa Rica, le encantan tocar el balón, correr y intentar de jugar. Entonces, eso lo veo como siempre bien.
La Ligue des Champions?
Non, on est content, évidemment. C'est sûr qu'on sait que c'est seulement le début. Mais non, évidemment, on est très content de ça. Je pense pas qu'il y a beaucoup de monde qui nous voyait passer cette ronde-là. On était confiants, mais avec les 2 premiers matchs qui sont en Ligue des Champions comme ça, qui sont des matchs super importants, de passer au travers, ça fait du bien.
Tu nous avais dit que tu favoriserais une approche agressive pour ce match-là, tu parlais de Thierry.
Non, mais évidemment, c'est pas l'approche qu'on voulait, mais il faut que tu t'adaptes au jeu. Puis, oui, on a été défensif dans le sens qu'on n'a pas eu le même pourcentage de possession que eux. En même temps, on n'a rien laissé. Je veux dire, en première demi, à part la première occasion, après 4-5 minutes, ils n'ont pas vraiment créé quelque chose. Nous, on s'en est créé, bon, évidemment pas une tonne, mais l'occasion de Chamit. Donc non, évidemment, ça a été un match où on a dû défendre un peu plus. Mais au final, il faut que tu t'ajustes, puis c'est de faire ce que tu dois faire pour aller chercher le résultat.
Est-ce que ça chauffe un peu plus vite quand même? Ça chauffe vers la fin, vous les avez plus à distance, quand même pas dans le bon.
Ouais, on était très solide durant tout le match. On a changé de système à quelques reprises durant le match. Donc on s'est bien ajusté par rapport à ça. Mais c'était vraiment les 10 dernières minutes que j'ai senti que ça poussait vraiment beaucoup. Mais on a senti que la foule était derrière nous, ça nous a aidé. L'arrêt de Clément aussi à la fin nous a donné un peu de motivation justement de tenir le fort jusqu'à la fin. C'est des matchs qui sont pas faciles, mais au final, comme j'ai dit, c'est le résultat qui compte. On est content de passer encore de finale. Très bien. C'est difficile pour un jeune de rentrer dans une grosse compétition comme celle-ci pour ton premier match. Évidemment, au Stade Olympique, c'est pas toujours évident non plus. Mais non, très bien fait, très serein. C'est un jeune, oui, mais qui est assez mature. Pas l'air il joue pas comme un gars de 18 ans, donc je pense que c'est une très belle addition.
With another injury coming up, Pratala, how are you guys adapting to the game that's happening in 3 days?
Yeah, it's tough, but I mean, I think we have good options, at center backs. Louis played today, Rod was in good shape. Obviously, we lost Rudy last week. But we were playing 5 at the back with 3 center backs. We can maybe go back to 4-3-3 with 4 defenders. I mean, we have option, and that's the beauty of this team, But I think the most important thing, I thought we fought really well today, despite losing Juko, who's our captain and an important guy for the team. We stick together all the way to the end. But yeah, obviously it's an unfortunate loss, and we'll see what's happening with him.
Knocking them out is going to make the recovery easier, I'm assuming?
Yeah, for sure. I think everyone was pretty tired after the game, and we have to go back to training ground tomorrow. It's tough because you got to play a game in 2 days, 3 days time. So it's obviously very difficult, but that's our job, and that's what we got to do.
You're speaking of playing in a different game. It's also against a different team from a different league with a totally different type of mentality,
different ball
training
as well.
and technique. Different. Is that a difference, honestly? The ball?
Yeah, it is.
From Nike to Adidas?
Yeah, it's a little difference, to be honest.
Yeah.
I can feel it.
How do you change mentality from CONCACAF, from a home and away series to first game of the season on Saturday?
Yeah, it's a lot different because we knew coming in today's game we only needed to get a result, and then that's the first thing I said coming back in the locker room. I think it's the first time I see a home team happy with a 0-0 draw. Obviously, when you're home in MLS, you always want to win. and that's what we want to do on Saturday. So yeah, it's going to be obviously difficult to change the chip, but we got to do it quick because we know MLS is obviously a long season, but every game counts.
Thank you, Sam.
Merci beaucoup.
What's the feeling, considering it's not a win, but it was such a tough match to think?
It's good. Like I said before, it's something that we're building on. First 2 games of the season, coming 2 goals on aggregate, it's important. So we knew we had a game plan tonight. We did exactly what we wanted to do. Yeah, we defended a lot, but for it being the second game of the season, it shows the culture that we're building on this team for a long season ahead. We fight for one another, we run for the guy next to one another, and we know that guys that are coming in off the bench, they make a difference, like Jackson and Saphir did, and Joel. So yeah, it just shows that it's going to be important as the year goes on.
And you feel the second half wore on. How confident were you that this defensive shell was going to hold up and you guys were on their way to a series win?
I was confident in the guys. I think everyone's confident in one another because the biggest thing is in this culture is you know that the guy next to you is going to work hard for you if you work hard for him. So I think kind of building on that is important if we want to achieve the goals that we want to achieve for 2020.
Saprissa looked less dangerous, fewer dangerous crosses. They seem to be passing the ball a lot amongst themselves. Is that something that they just lack that killer instinct, or is that something you guys did well?
No, I think we prepared for them better. We changed our formation tactically, and we acted on it. And yeah, they still kept the ball, of course, but at the end of the day, we minimized their chances, and we actually created some good opportunities as well on the counter. But we could have made them run a little bit more and frustrate them a little bit, but at the end of the day, we had 0-0 shutout, and we're on to the next round.
A thought on that Diop save with a minute to go in the 89th?
It's nothing new. I know he'll make those saves. He does it all the time in training, and yeah, he's a man. So.
Personally, this year starts on a different note for yourselves. 2 starts already in the CONCACAF Champions League. How do you find yourself after 2 games this year?
Feel good. We've got a competitive group and we got a good culture. These coaches, they're confident in me and they let me play the football that I know. We've got a long year ahead, so the biggest thing is just to keep learning from them and keep pushing myself, pushing my teammates along the way.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
How are you, Lee?
Good, yeah.
Good. First playing for the Montreal Impact. First of all, how are you feeling after the game?
Yeah, no, it was a good feeling. Obviously better that we've gone through, but I think the fans were brilliant. That also helped us when it got hard towards the end of the game. And yeah, just happy that we've gone through.
It was your first game with the Impact, but it seems you found your marks already. We saw you marshalling that back line like you were playing here for 5 years. How is your fitting into the team already so far?
Yeah.
How has been your integration with the team?
No, it's been good. Obviously, I've been with them nearly a month now through pre-season, but it helped having someone like Rod next to me, who's obviously played at the top, been around for a lot of years, so he helped me throughout the game. But yeah, it was good. I think, like I said, also the fans as well, they helped massively.
Playing in front of a big crowd like this, of course you've played in front of big crowds before, you've played in the academy, but this is a bit different. How did you find the experience at the Big O, and with the injuries to Rudy Camacho, do you see yourself as a starter for the next couple of games?
Hopefully, that's not down to me, obviously the manager, but hopefully I've done well enough and showed him that I'm ready and I'm capable of playing in big games, because ultimately that's what I'm here to do.
Thank you very much, Liz.
Thank you.
All the best for the season.
Cheers, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks to Thierry Henry, Samuel Piette and Louis Binks for their time after the game tonight. Of course, we'll be right back here on Saturday for the first game of the regular season. Make sure you follow social media. Make sure you follow a couple of different accounts that we have. Of course, I have the Woodworkx, Soccer Today ESPN, at Kevin Larme for myself, to get a touch of all the special content we'll be doing in the next few days heading into Saturday, the first game of the Montreal Impact in the 2020 regular season in Major League Soccer. Bruce Arena and company are in town to spoil the debut of manager Thierry Henry in Major League Soccer. and that happens on Saturday. We'll be here before, we'll be here after with another post-game edition, so make sure you follow us for that. If you'd like to support what we do, if you'd like to have the podcast version of Off the Woodworks every week, it's available for patrons only. I'll put some videos out there for everyone. If you want to hear the podcast version, make sure you go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/sports podcasting network. I'm doing this full-time. I'm a full-time freelance reporter, and your help helps me continue to do so. So we hope that you enjoyed this special coverage all week long. Make sure you listen to our flagship show, Soccer Today Live, Monday to Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern on our Twitter feed at Soccer Today SPN. Big guest tomorrow afternoon, a surprise podcast, surprise live show tomorrow afternoon with a guest that you're familiar with. If you're a fan of MLS for a while, you'll remember our friend that we're going to have on Soccer Today tomorrow afternoon. The end of preview week continues, of course, tomorrow and Friday. If you like predictions, if you like big spreadsheets and predictions, on Friday I'll make available for Patreon my season-long prediction for every single team in Major League Soccer. I predicted every game that's going to happen this year. That gives me numbers, that gives me a standing, that gives me who's going to make the playoff, who won't, who's going to be close, who won't, who's going to have a 5-game losing streak, Cincinnati, who's going to have a 5-game winning streak, maybe twice in the season, LAFC. So there's a lot more of my predictions coming for you on Friday in written form and a long form article on sportspodcastingnetwork.com. And of course, Soccer Today on Friday is entirely dedicated to our 2020 Major League Soccer prediction. We hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back on Saturday, and until then, as always, have a great soccer.